Dr. Doom.
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired Mr. Stark?
And welcome to another exciting episode of Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host for tonight, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter at that address. You can also find me at News Nerds Need and CB Caps on Instagram. Jeez Louise. Okay. And that sound was provided to you by our man in Brooklyn, the man behind the soundboard, the man with video audio cues for himself, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
Sup, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Just built in. I tell you, that's yeah. All right. Anyway, we are here tonight to bring you the world of comics in our own inimitable fashion. But first, to get to the rest of the introductions of folks who are not here, as you can see, because it's just the two of us. Yeah. PC_Dirt on Twitter and Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in. And of course, the Osiris of this ish, Tim DOGG98, who's hard at work on a project that should come out pretty soon. For his CBR, where he's over there writing his face off. But you can also find him on Twitter at TimDog98. That's TimDOGG98. Also, CB Cron on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter. That's TheKliqNation, and TheClickNation.com. You have to switch up the order sometimes. You can find this here podcast on the CSPN network. That's the Cold Slither Podcast Network, CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Also, Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, which, man, it's going to be weird not to have to say that first part. The Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. That's a lot to say at one time. And, of course, Spotify. All right. We're going to get into the comics of the week, starting off with I guess arguably the big boy of the week, or girl, or thing, or person, them, all that, you want to not gender a book, whatever. House of X, number 5.
Yeah, so this is the latest chapter of Hickman's reboot of the X-Men corner of the Marvel Universe, and there is a lot to unpack in this book.
It's too early to call it a magnum opus. And I feel like we probably would have said something like that during his Avengers run, which is not dissimilar from this, but not necessarily the same.
Agreed.
And I bring that up for a specific reason. Like, you can draw some comparisons to it, and in fact, we may have already done that in the first issue of his run with Avengers and this, in where he just kind of pulls some things. He just kind of weaves some things together, not trying to blow smoke up on them, but this is some pretty good writing, some pretty good work done. And this is specifically, but with the stuff leading up to it also. He has effectively found some use for, some would say, some less than effectual mutants.
That's one way to put it.
He has also answered the question that I had about, which we'll go ahead and jump right into it, about the mission that was undertaken. Wait, was it House of X or was it
previous issues of House of X?
Previous issues. Okay, yes, that's what I thought. So basically, explained what happened. Or was it basically what happened to the team that was sent? Because it basically went one way, and we thought, well, that was it. And we also knew that in the future, one of those mutants was still around, that we saw, and I specifically wondered, like, how in the world does one gets from here to there? This issue answers that pretty handily.
Right. Well, eventually, what we find in this issue is that what we thought happened did actually happen. It
Correct.
wasn't a fake out. We're actually dealing with distinct ramifications from what happens to that away team that went towards the Soul's Hammer base to deal with the mother mold in previous issues of House of X. And now we find out that our theories were kind of on point, and what people had said about possible pod people.
Well, especially coming out of last Powers of 10,
Right.
that which laid the groundwork for that.
Right. And that theory proved to be somewhat prophetic because we find out in this issue that what becomes of those characters is not exactly what we thought, but it's definitely a version of it. And what Hickman does is make use of, as Roddykat was referring to, a group of X-Men characters that maybe had fallen, probably didn't deserve too much of a spotlight. They may have had a bit of a spotlight here and there in various issues, but didn't require too much screen time for lack of a comic term or page count maybe.
Yeah,
But
basically, as we were talking before the show, these mutants by themselves would be considered less, like I was saying, less than effective.
right, other than one.
Terms.
Right, other than one or two.
Oh, one or two, yes.
Yeah, one or two are probably the ones who have the more fantastical powers. Not that any of them don't have realistic powers, but the ones that can really
Some would argue useful, and
yeah,
or in at least in one case, reality breaking.
right. And their combined forces don't exactly create Captain Planet, but they definitely have what amount to life-giving properties, which is amazing. And it's a pretty it's a pretty inventive way for Hickman to make use of these characters.
Yes, and as I'm fairly certain I've said during his Avengers run, I would like some of whatever he is smoking. That was some pretty good, like I said. And the thing about it is, like is just like he did in Avengers, the piece was kind of laid out there on the page. You just didn't know what he was going to do with them until he lays them out, and a lot of times that's usually way down the line. And we're still there's still some of that at that point. And this is one of those cases where it was like, well, one issue here, lay some of it down, and next issue, there's the use.
Right. So what I want to discuss is going to require a ringing of the spoiler bell. So spoiler bell incoming in 3, 2, 1. All right. So what we were referring to earlier with the pod people theory of how a lot of these characters that we've seen through littered throughout Powers of 10 and House of X, how Krakoa and or some other means might come along to create the X version of pod people. What transpires in this issue, even though I did ring the spoiler bell, is a version of that. But what's funny is that it recreates not just tissue, bone and tissue, and there is a funny way for the X-Men to recreate brain patterns and memories, but also technology and hard metal. In other words, they actually Although we haven't seen it explained away just yet, are they recreating an entire adamantium skeleton from whole cloth? Is this the work of Proteus, perhaps? And that's my working theory.
And my working theory is that they just went back to there's enough, somehow, some way, there's enough adamantium particles in his DNA to where it just regrew with his skeleton, and due to his mutant powers of healing, some kind of way, because they did kind of explain that away, like way back in the day, where the adamantium grew back, which seems seemingly impossible to do for anyone but him.
Like, I can't discount any theories at this point until Hickman actually addresses it, whether or not he addresses it at all.
Assuming that
Right.
happens, yeah.
Whether or not it's even something that he's going to deem worth his time. So, that being said, see if there's anything else I wanted to mention about this.
Well, so I wanted to go back to, before you go any further, to
Sure.
To basically go back on a point that you actually mentioned. So we get a bit of a, not necessarily a retcon, but an additional purpose to a long-running piece of tech that the X-Men used, seemingly a dual-purpose redoing of Cerebro.
Right.
So because we all know Cerebro was the one that, helps the Xavier or whoever is using it find mutants, but apparently there has been another function that has been used on it that I don't think has been used or touted or even mentioned before. I'm fairly certain this is probably something new. Somebody, I'm sure, will correct me on that.
No, this is new, and at least as far as I know, I don't think this was brought up in like the main X books proper. It could have been in one of the tangential X books, but I think this is just a logical step for Hickman to go in, to take when it comes to what the X-Men have on hand.
I mean, it did definitely make sense. It was like, because I was like, yeah, because when I read that part, it was like, you know what? Sure, that makes sense for Cerebro to do more than just the function that we know it used to that it dealt with.
Right. But I guess considering that computing that's that was Alexa. There's no computing there's less computing limitations now than there were when Cerebro was first created. So, and obviously they've incorporated Shi'ar tech and all sorts of tech into their systems. So, they don't have to worry about storage space for all of these memories and personalities.
No, they pretty much, there's that, because they've got a system where, so they're basically, it's like they're when I was the computer science geek in me was like, they basically put it in Amazon cloud, or right. So they basically it's a system of data centers where they have all of this data, which makes sense because that the human DNA is quite large.
Oh, not even just. I was about to say that's not even the bulk of it for a lot of these mutants who they're trying to. Again, spoiler bell in effect still for a lot of these mutants who have accumulated X number of memories.
Right.
So and creating personality traits and characteristics. So that's a lot of data to have stored. But without going
to do constant backups of
right, and without going too far into the weeds on that, we'll see how if that's ever addressed. There are a number of developments in this issue in the present day that may have ramifications in the Powers of 10 story. Depending on how we'll see how that all plays out. But we have we have a general attitude on the island. It's nice to see Storm embrace a form of leadership she used with the Morlocks That's what I was reminded of. Actually, I don't know if she used that with the Wakandans as well, but
Yeah, a little bit.
but we also see that uh, uh, Krakoa is sort of a new. Well, I guess it's a new place for all mutants, and that includes the traditional ex bad guys. And it's interesting to see the ex bad guys being not welcomed into the fold, but given sanctuary. And this is something that may be leading to further developments outside of Powers of 10, but going into the immediate future of the X books.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and not the harsh on this. Like, we don't know what this means to the large universe at hand, but at this point, it kind of doesn't matter. Although there may have been a reference in another book from this weekend, or that could be just me reading into it outside of the Xbox. So, but yeah, and even one of those said mutants has already had a familiarity with Krakoa, judging by his announcement. I mean, by his coming in there,
right? His reaction to setting foot on the island. So yeah.
Right, and it was kind of funny because it's like, well, I know this is now a Disney property, and all you need to know is to cue some Snow White music or something around them, and
it's really it's honestly, for fans of the X-Men, it's refreshing to see Marvel really kick this into gear. Really shine the spotlight like this in this way on the X-Men. So it's interesting that this would happen post Fox deal.
yeah. But whether or not that was any kind of whether it had to do with anything or not, I suspect this was going to be a thing one way or the other.
Yeah, it's serendipity at its finest.
So I don't know if you had anything else on that.
No, I'm good. I don't think Tim had anything to mention besides what we all know to be the case for this week. So I think we can move on.
Okay. Well, then if you feel like it, go ahead, pick.
Ooh, the other book that I read right off the top, that was right at the top of my list of books to read, was Valkyrie, Jane Foster, number 3.
Okay. Yes.
So this was a hoot to read. I have to mention before we start that this book was overshipped to stores, which is a sign that orders may not have been very high, and I think Marvel was trying to push this book onto retailers and make sure that the numbers for this book are up and possibly push this book into more readers' hands.
Shout out to Divine Gloom who is saying he's going to put it on his list.
Oh, it is
knowing that Al Ewing is a part of the writing of it.
It is well worth putting this on your pull list.
Absolutely,
because I enjoyed the heck out of this issue. I thought that Jason Aaron and Al Ewing's writing gives they what they do is that they write Jane Foster's inner thoughts in her own voice, and they give the Valkyrie persona and as Guardian Warrior / Valkyrie voice, which has hints of the old way of writing as Guardian dialogue without the Shakespearean thee and thou. And I like that. I like that the it kind of harkens back to some of the old-fashioned way of writing Thor stories, and it makes things feel epic. And this, and I know Roddykat's going to follow up on this. This is basically a trip to various versions of the afterlife in the Marvel universe, and think your notes take it from there.
Yeah, I think let me see, what actually did I have on there? So yeah, basically I was gonna say this was Valkyrie and Heimdall's bizarre ride to the far side. Shout out to that group. But I guess technically it is because they did make a couple of stops of lesser traveled places in the universe, or in this case, the multiverse. I guess you could say. And going headlong into what seems to be, without going through all the places that they went, but they did definitely touch upon a thing from the last few months, which makes sense since Al Ewing's on part, and that would be Avengers No Road Home.
Right.
So kind of touched up on something that happened at the end of that before. I don't know. Do we want to call this Heimdall's homecoming? Because while we just saw him, he just kind of disappeared.
Right. We're still not 100% sure. We're led to assume that this is the last we see of Heimdall, and we're not spoiling anything. This happened 2 issues ago. If you're a little bit behind, please catch up. Valkyrie needs your support.
Right. So yeah, if you don't know what happened, well, I assume if you've read War of the Realms, you kind of know some of it, except for what happened to him, because what happened to him happens in this book.
Right.
Which leads to this journey into the multiverse and his seemingly stop here. But to keep going with that, Valkyrie loses, I guess, a friend and gains a talking horse.
Right.
Which I said in my notes, I'm like, wow, this is going to be doubly bad if something should happen to this thing now, because this is that same horse that attacked her in the first issue, which got addressed, or at least got brought up.
Yeah, it definitely comes up,
which is kind of funny. I can't say that this animal is on the level of Thor just yet, but we will see going forward.
Exactly. I'll be interested to see if they are able to develop this particular horse. It's not Aragorn. It's not the traditional, right? It's not the traditional Valkyrie steed. And if I go back to the Simonson run on Thor, I think the Valkyrie rode a black horse actually. But in any event, it's the story takes us to several locations, and the art changes with each location. So we don't just get Cafu's art, which is awesome. But
and it was some good. I don't know if you agree with it, but some good old school looking art inspires.
Old school?
Yeah. Especially like when the art changes from the art first changes, there is kind of an old school feel to it. To me. Maybe not to you. I don't know.
I'm scrolling through it now just to see.
I'm not saying it's it felt like there was some inspiration, some old school inspiration in the art to me. But like I said, that's to me.
Right. I don't know what you mean. Like maybe in the layouts or the style?
Just style.
Oh, okay. I guess I see it. I'm just scrolling through it now. I'm looking at it and seeing if I see what you see. Just to get back to the art, the changes in the art. We have a group of artists on this, including Cafu, Ramon Perez, Cian, Torme with Roberto Poggi and Fraser Irving. And it's the totality of it, all of it taken together is really nice, because it's nice to see these different locations depicted in very different art forms,
and none of the art changes were jarring, which is always nice. I wouldn't safely say that it was like seamless and you couldn't tell that that there wasn't a distinct art change or not. I mean, a couple of cases you probably couldn't.
I was about to say you could. Once you get to Fraser Irving's work, that's when it gets a little different. So,
right. But the changes were gradual enough to be like, okay, well, there was a couple of art changes there, and it's like nothing just glaringly bad, definitely for sure, or glaringly different.
Right, and it makes sense.
Yes.
It makes sense story wise. So, we get some follow up to the story once the story of Heimdall is not wrapped, but at least taken care of in this arc, and we have a nice little cliffhanger for the next issue.
Oh yes, as so somebody shows up at the end of this issue who apparently was behind Bullseye's first attack in the first issue, and as this person definitely says, like, yeah, they would never see him coming. I surely didn't, but
that was a big surprise.
Yeah, but let's just say it is, given the nature of Valkyrie and given this person's persona and familiarity with the lack of life and the agenda the Avengers, kind of makes sense in a way. So, but definitely unexpected. So
we might get some more on Brunhilde and Brunhilde's former mortal host in the next issue, because that's what's teased on the cover for next issue.
Which makes sense. At some point, one or both was going to show up.
They'd have to come back
again. Yeah. So yeah, I can't say I would be like, well, it seemed like it was too soon. Like, nah, we don't know how it's going to get played out, so it doesn't really matter when they come, but it was going to happen one way or the other. So yeah, that was Parker Jane Foster number. I keep seeing it the other way around because I've looked at like 2-3 different sites and it's like written the other way around as Jane Foster Valkyrie, which I kind of like it that way better. I don't know why. It's just an aesthetic choice. So the next up you want to hit maybe Miss Marvel?
Sure.
Magnificent Miss Marvel number 7. This is a new arc. And this sometimes tends to happen when in a new arc. You got to go back to the basics. You get to get to a day in the life of Kamala, except for nowadays that her day in the life has a little more challenge to it on the family front, in that she is still kind of processing, dealing with the illness of her dad, but she's being there for the family as she tends to do, and then it then goes off into her school, which for her, and she's doing double duty as a superhero plus doing schoolwork, which sometimes falter as a teen.
Sure,
we get to see that, but her friends come along, as then also tends to happen as a support group, and they start on a merry adventure. Which I don't know. I wasn't, like I said, you usually don't know where Miss Marvel ends up going when something like this happens. So there's going to be something, and from some part of me should have thought that, okay, the people that end up coming into play near the end of the book was going to come back at some point. So I shouldn't have been surprised that it was them, but
right,
was on that one, on that point.
What I would say is that the story is about Kamala and friends going on a road trip to kind of get away from things.
Mm-hmm.
And what they encounter are some of Kamala's burgeoning villains gallery. You don't think you would see these characters, but there's going to be a reason why, I presume, presented in the next issue.
Right. There's definitely probably going to be more than, and as what seems like it's presented in here, it's going to be more to it than them just showing up.
Right. So it's interesting to see Saladin Ahmed continue to develop these characters as part of Kamala's rogues gallery, her crew of villains. So nice to see these characters continue to be developed. They're all her age, basically. So, we're not talking about anybody who is not related to her in a sense. So,
Right.
a lot of these villains are still coming out of her relationships. So, um, that's the ground that they are still they're farming that ground for her rogues at this point.
Right. And at least one of them had shown up like a couple of issues, or was it a couple of issues back, or was it in?
Maybe the last volume.
No, one of them showed up fairly recently.
Oh, the male.
Yes.
The male did, not the female. The female, I don't think, has been around
No, she
for a
definitely
little
had.
while.
Yeah, but it was the male I was talking about. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and I can't remember where, but it was something recent. I know it doesn't at this point. It doesn't really matter. It's probably
Right. He's named after a program we may have been using to communicate with you guys.
we would have been using. Yeah, and some of you gamers use it for communication.
So,
You already know what it is.
mhm.
Just by me saying that. Which I don't know if that even exists in this world, but if it does, that would be kind of funny. So that's
Probably by a different name.
Yeah, a little slightly. Speaking of different names, there is a so this is the two things I wanted to bring up. Ms. Marvel's book always, since its inception, have always had these nice little background things. This is probably one of the few cases where one of those background things have been called to attention, and that I'm talking about the road sign they passed with a certain show. If you know what I'm talking about.
I'm scrolling now. I got to get to it. I don't remember it exactly.
Basically, based off of another quartet of crime fighting.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I see it.
Yes.
That's
So
cool.
I thought that was. I was like, at first I was like, come on, y'all could have done better than that. But at the same time, I was like, nah, it still works.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
A fun little Easter egg.
right. And when they talk about it, it's like it's like it's they talk about the gritty reboot. So I was like, yeah, sure. We let that go. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. So yeah, that was Oh, and I think that was the thing I was going to say, and to end my thought on it was, I think this was the book. I'm fairly certain this was the book that I alluded to when we were talking about House of X, because there was a part, and this could be just me. This could be just me thinking about it this way. When Kamala was still in school and her teacher was talking, he brings up mutants, and. Like, granted, the statement could just be a general, like, yeah, mutants are taking a stand for for their rights, blah blah blah. But it also could be an allusion to what's going on in the current X books, especially with what some of the information that was brought up in House of X5, which we did not talk about, when them getting their statehood, basically.
Sure.
So. But again, that could be me reading into it more than it's actually being the case. Next up, want to throw something out?
Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda.
Sure. The book that will probably most likely last longer than Black Panther and the Crew. I'm still kind of salty about that, but you know what? It is what it is.
All right. So, all right. So this is a motley crew of Marvel characters being utilized as agents of Wakanda.
That's pretty much what I've said. Also, yeah.
Talk about pulling from various corners of the Marvel universe, man. And it's not just the ones that have been solicited, and not just the ones on the cover.
Right.
There's a whole host of characters.
There's at least 1-2 deep cuts that get brought up in the course of this book.
Definitely.
One of them have shown up before in Avengers. Which is Actually, both of them were talked about. Now that I think about it, in Avengers.
Right. I mean, we've seen, at least the ones that lead off the issue. We've seen them in Avengers books before as agents of Wakanda.
Right.
What we did not know was that several characters that really have not been seen in the Marvel universe for a while would become parts of this book with varying effects. One being some comedic relief. Shout out to Fat Cobra. I thought he was a fine addition to this group.
It was an interesting one for sure.
There's a little cameo appearance from, of all people, American Eagle. With a
deep cut I was talking about.
with a pretty amusing panel that's all this character appears in, but it's very amusing. And I think once we get the introduction of who is on board for this group out of the way, we jump into the first adventure that we see against a super powered foe. And what we find out is that, as they're going to investigate, they tease in the story what their biggest shortcoming is at this point, and then they run into something that is going to directly emphasize the team's shortcoming at this point.
Unless that will be addressed and just was not spoken, because sometimes Black Panther has a way of like, oh no, I got this covered.
Right, there's a plan in place. Right, exactly. Right. That's what I presume. I presume that we're going to see something along those lines, some sort of plan in place, a contingency plan in place for this character who was revealed in the cliffhanger. So I figure that's the case, but I kind of got a kick out of Zub literally writing that into the story.
I literally groaned when at that last page, because I was like, oh no, not
more along the nature of the character, more along the fact that because it's that particular character.
Yes,
I got you.
Although this version is different than the one that had the issue with, but it's still the same character.
Right. This is the most up to date version of the character.
Right, coming out of the
just had. I'm trying to remember the reference that you're coming up with. I'm thinking of the character's limited series, actually. Most recent limited series.
Well, okay, yeah, because that was that after? Wait, was that after Doctor Strange?
I don't remember. That's why you that's why I paused to kind of see if I could remember.
That sounds probably right. I don't know. I didn't care so much about it in the first one, but we do know at some point, yeah. The starting of this version of the character started out in the recent volume of probably the last volume, now that I think about it, of Doctor Strange. Or maybe it was early. No, it was the last volume, because it was like near the end, I think. And then that might have been when the limited series happened, and then yeah.
Right. Just trying to remember what the chronology is. That's all.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
It's not of much consequence, because ultimately what we have is this character who we're dancing around because we don't want to spoil the ending of the first issue of this book. We do want you to go out and at least give it a look. Right. It's a pretty interesting final page, in my opinion, because of the nature of this group of heroes. So we'll see if the Black Panther has a contingency plan in place for this.
There was a mention of backup not getting there because they were having communications issues. So that could go one way or the other.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's an interesting start to this book. We'll see how it goes from there.
All right, let's see if there's any other books that we had in common. We definitely had a few.
Mhm.
Before we jump to kind of rapid fiery, let's see.
You're at a friendly neighborhood.
I skimmed it. If you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Sure. So, friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man number 12. So we had been, well, at least articles have come out, and probably Solicitations also, now that I think about it, has also said that there was going to be this big thing, or alluded to this big thing happening to the life of one Peter Parker Spider-Man, and this is the issue where that thing happening, except for the fact that, as I say in my notes, the setup to this was less whelming than advertised, to quote Young Justice, in a way.
Okay.
Because, so I guess, spoiler alert, kind of, this was supposed to be the issue that Spider-Man died. Technically, figuratively, that happened. Didn't actually happen. But it does kick off what happens during the course of the story, in that, he goes to find out, who's behind it, and get some leads and get some help from the police. He still has struggles with irony, the meaning of irony, apparently, which was a whole throughput through this issue, and it was kind of funny. Which, you would think, as smart as Peter is, that would be a concept he would grasp. But hey, and some would say, as I said, looks like we got some good news for Aunt May, unless they decide to, turn that around and twist the knife at some point down in the future. And of course, some continual jinxing by Peter, who basically was like, "Oh yeah, everything's starting to look good," and then something happens to where it starts this whole ball rolling. So, congrats on that. I saw that it was still this book continues to be light, and it was kind of fun, and where this issue goes was still pretty fun.
Right. It's a development that how this issue develops, which is kind of what I remember of it. I don't recall everything that happens, but it's a little bit of a setup issue because, as Roddykat mentioned, we have this premise that Spidey is trying to figure out who's out to kill him. I'm like, aren't all the bad guys out to kill you, dude?
Right.
But there is a plot in play. There's a plot, or at least a scheme in place. And Spider-Man employs a lot of different connections to try to get to the cause of it, and we get to a little bit of a reunion at the end of the issue, which is kind of funny.
Yes.
And shout out to @MattWang97, who is watching and calling us out for poking fun at American Eagle. And I'm not sure who we're hanging out with at New York Comic Con yet, but I'm still putting together my list of things to see and do at the show. It's coming up quickly.
Right. Interesting. We got
What's that?
There was something in the chat I may or may not bring up, but not right now. I don't know if this was a serious question or not, but but anyway, may or may not address that as later on in transition.
Okay.
So yeah, that was that for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And well, hey, look, it's American Eagle. At least it wasn't Stingray.
Oh no!
He'd never have a place here. I'm just saying. Anywho, let's see. Let's throw out another book. I know you read Guardians.
Sure.
So let's hit Guardians of the Galaxy number 9.
All right. So what happens is that Star Lord and mild spoilers. I'll ring the spoiler bell because this was a pretty big thing to happen, and we don't quite understand how it happened. So I'll ring the spoiler bell. So pretty quickly, we find that Star Lord is somehow able to overcome the conversion therapy. That's what it is. It's conversion therapy from the Universal Church of Truth.
Right.
What we find out though is that Star Lord isn't able to get away, but what we find out eventually is the goal of the Universal Church of Truth, and it's a really interesting swerve that Cates throws at us. Because it's not it's not who we think it is.
Right. Yeah, in fact, it's like, wow, I didn't think they were going to bring this particular iteration of a character back.
It was a very inventive swerve. I was surprised.
Right. Well, especially when earlier in the book, especially if you've been keeping up with Guardians and particularly this arc, you know what the Universal Church of Truth tends to try to do, and the assumption was going into this that they were trying to do this exact same thing, but we come to find out that the character that we thought they were trying to bring up is already around one, and the Guardians are asking them for help, and that the church is pretty much resurrected this other character,
right?
So as Agent 7 said, that was a pretty good swerve there. I'm like, huh. I actually chuckled on that specifically because of the iteration of the character that they chose to bring up.
Sure.
So, and I am really looking forward to the explanation of how and why, or more specifically, why. How, definitely, because it's like, wait, because we know the version of the character that just passed not too long ago was not this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they have some ginned up reason as to why this was the version that came back out, as opposed to, the version that is at this point more well known.
Right. So. Yeah. So I think you mentioned something earlier. I just wanted to touch on. Is that Cates is playing with all of the Marvel cosmic toys, especially the ones that are connected to the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that character, one of the characters that's related to who we thought might have been in the Cocoon, come up. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to the artist on this book, whose name was completely unfamiliar to me. I had to scroll to the credits page to see the artist. It's Corey Smith,
right?
Inks by Victor Olathaba. I follow Olathaba on Instagram, and I did see him inking some of the pages from this book in a post. But I'm not familiar with Corey Smith's work, but it seems like I should be, because it's pretty well rendered. These pages are done in a pretty classical comic sense, but the coloring obviously gives it, and the coloring by scrolling, the coloring by David Curiel is very modern, so it gives it a lot of depth. But there's it's got a very slick and modern look to it, but it's very put together. Shout out to backgrounds as always. Love to shout out artists that do backgrounds, and this artist, I think, bears some it requires some notice in the future, I think, because I don't know if this has been the regular artist on this book, but I think it's time to check in on this artist by name in the future.
Yeah, I actually haven't been keeping up with who's been doing the art on this book. It's been good, and there's been no reason. Actually, there has been. I shouldn't even say that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Rocket had a Gundam, so
there is that, but I mean, not for that particular reason. But I mean, for the art in general. It's probably definitely needs to be talked about a little bit more. Or at least kept up with more, as far as for me anyway. Yeah, this is Gundam. Anyway, don't get me started on that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we move on from there to, I guess we can start rounding it back down to the rapid fires, because we don't have that much in common.
Sure.
One or two books.
Sure, and I've got some input from PCN_Dirt on several DC books that both he and I read in common this week. So if you would want, if we're ready, I will spin up the minigun and start rapid fire.
Do it.
All right. Let's see. I will start with Spider-Man #1. This is the book from J.J. Abrams and his son, Henry, I believe his name is.
Sounds right.
And the art is by Sarah Pichelli, who is generally an artist that I love following. But my biggest problem with this book is with the coloring, and that's it's unfortunate. We've been stressing how much developments in comic coloring technology have really created some beautiful books over the last several years, and advancements in coloring technology and technique have really advanced how art is produced and how pretty it is, for lack of a better way of putting it. And I was kind of off put by the art in this issue, because it wasn't as attractive as I was used to seeing from Pichelli. And I kind of faulted the coloring. But with regards to the story, believe it or not, PCN_Dirt liked this book. It actually reminded him of Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, the story coming out of Secret Wars. I wasn't as impressed. I understand the theory behind this firmly out of continuity story,
which surprised me why he liked it, because he is normally not a fan of things out of continuity.
No, but what it does is it follows up on a continuity that was dropped. It's a version of Renew Your Vows,
but that's not canon. That's not in, like, that's not Prime 616 story.
Right, that's what this is, but that's the point. It's a version of what would happen if X happened back then,
Right, which basically means
exactly. It's out of canon. So
right, so that's what I'm saying. Which, because that surprised me that he liked it, considering he usually doesn't like anything that's not. His words.
What I was going to say is that I think if in this sense, if it revisits a continuity that he liked, I think maybe, or that he thought maybe shouldn't have been abandoned, is more like it. I think that's a reason why he liked it. But in terms of my own feelings on it, I just found fault in the execution of the book. So I'll be checking in on this book. I don't know. I didn't pull this physically, so I don't know if I'm going to be picking this up.
It's only going to be 5 issues, so
we'll see. I think we actually both read Arrow #3.
Yes.
I continue to be impressed by the inventiveness that Arrow has in the use of her wind powers as we continue the adaptation of this original story.
She's a regular airbender.
And in the backup story, we learn more about Wave's origin.
Mm-hmm. Which actually brings up something real quick, because so in the backup story, her and Wave are trying to deal with the backstory. They go to this secret prison, and the person that they talk to there, who's this doctor who's been imprisoned there, is talking about the tech that gave Wave her powers. And I don't know if you noticed it or not, but did it not sound like something that could have possibly come up in Invaders.
Oh, sure. Definitely sounded like that there's some sort of a relation or connection to Atlantis.
And I kind of wonder, it's like, wait, is that something that could have been?
Is it purposeful? Right.
So I don't know. We at this point we don't know.
Right. It could be something that's along the lines of adaptation, especially in the face of climate change. But yeah, it definitely, in the Marvel universe, at least, it definitely sounds like something that you would see coming up in a story related to or connected to Atlantis. So I definitely saw that. So
Superman still better than Cine Ray.
I'm sorry. Are you responding to Matt Wang 97? I think you are. Okay. So next up, Batman number 79. So I echo PCN_dirt sentiments in that this is yet another issue of Batman and Catwoman discussing their relationship before finally making a move against Bane. It's lots of talky, very soap opera-ish. Not that comic books aren't male soap operas, but it's very talky. There's lots of navel gazing. It's what are we gonna do? How are we doing this? And blah bitty blah. This is stuff that can take up one issue, but this is now 2 issues. I thought this was over with in the last issue, but we've still got this issue. So it's hanging on by a thread in my pull list. Next up is Flash Forward number 1. This is the follow-up to Heroes in Crisis. PCN_dirt didn't care much for the artwork. This is the artwork is by Brett Booth, who is controversial to say the least amongst our panel. The big interdimensional guy in the story is from Sideways, one of the Metal New Heroes books. The book seems to be trying to undo Heroes in Crisis, which makes PCN_dirt happy, but it's going back to the Grant Morrison multiverse, which he didn't really care too much for. He was hoping Doomsday Clock was going to undo all of that by now, but he was hoping that it was going to be undone by Doomsday Clock. I'm personally sad to see the current state of Wally West. That's what the first half of this book recounts and gets us up to date on. But I am interested to see how they redeem his character, who they again name as the fastest being in all the multiverse. So that might be a hint as to what role he may end up playing. I actually read Superman number 15 this week. It more skim than read, but I wanted to make a few comments on the book because it was interesting to see Bendis throw us what I felt was kind of a strange, kind of all over the place issue because of everything that it tries to accomplish, in that it sets up the Legion and also wraps the story of Jor-El, Superman's father, in the pages of Superman at the same time. For those of you who are not up to date on what is happening in Bendis' Superman, Jor-El has played a major role in Superman's life up until this point. This is not a good issue for first-time readers unless you want at the end of the day, if you catch this as your first issue, you may be enticed into going back to previous issues and catching up on it. It's the execution is okay. Ivan Reis's art is always pretty. Tony Stark, Iron Man number 16. I actually give Dan Slott lots of credit for being inventive in this issue. He actually expands on the concept of Ultron Pym. For those of you who aren't familiar, Ultron and Hank Pym have merged into something very strange looking, but makes a lot of sense in an Iron Man book. He expands on the concept of Ultron Pym to devastating effect in this part of the story, in this Ultron based story, and it's actually a logical step for Ultron to take. The last book that I read just before the show is Justice League number 32, and it's about it's another episode of the Justice / Doom War, which is heating up, and the Anti-Monitor joins the fray. This is, yeah, this is the second issue in a row that a spoiler. Second issue in a row, because they're churning out these Justice League issues in a hurry. That Aquaman has made a cliffhanger style appearance, and if you were here, was it 2 weeks ago when PCN_Dirt just spoiled the heck out of it on the show? So yeah, I warned you, I rang the bell. So that's it for Justice League number 32.
Well, cool. Let's see, what do I have next? Death's Head number 3. So for a book about Death's Head, they sure did spend a good bit of time talking about Wiccan and Hulkling's relationship, which has kind of been a through line through this series so far. It's not taken away from it, but it still is like weird. So in this issue, basically, the newest iteration of Death's Head, aka V, which is the 5th iteration, meets their creator and gets, for lack of a better word, activated, even though he already was, and gets sent after the human quotient of the team, that being Kate Bishop, Hulkling, and Wiccan, while Death's Head tries to battle, well, excuse me, Kate Bishop and Hulkling specifically, because Wiccan turned around and went back to help Death's Head, the OG Death's Head, and they get into something. Wiccan gets hurt, and then they end up meeting another version of Death's Head, who reactivates and goes after the OG Death's Head at the behest of the creator. So yeah, like I said, this book's still pretty fun, but like I said, I don't know, part of it feels like because they're focusing a good bit on Wiccan and Hulkling's relationship, like I feel like something else might be coming down the line.
Okay.
For them, because like there was not necessarily a big exposition dump, but there was a good page or so kind of talking about like what's going on with Wiccan specifically, and and in part their relationship. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, that kind of stuff, specifically with these characters, get brought up. Their relationship stuff get brought up, but I was like, this feels kind of deliberate. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Transformers number 12. So this issue takes place before issue 10, where Sentinel Prime basically came back to Cybertron to bust some heads, because having just found out what's been going on Cybertron. Well, in this issue, Sentinel Prime just finds out, and while they're on some envoy, and then they have to go back to Cybertron to kind of to see what's going on there. But the course of this story is centered around a Transformer called Nautica, who is the head of the Xeno relationship and well knowledge in that fact, and also, as I have her in my notes, which might be slightly off, I say, imagine if Uhura or Hoshi had more to do and had the mindset of, say, like Data or Barkley. That's the kind of bot that this person is. And they also have a bodyguard called Road Rage, who is another lady Autobot, which I did not know that at the time because it didn't really look like it. But that's just me not paying attention or whatever the case may be. And Nautica apparently has been around since the last volume of Transformers, but I didn't know because I'm not caught up on all that mess. So it was cool. She basically was going around and investigating with her own particular set of skills, what was going on the ship that they were on. And I'm sure we'll probably come back up at some point during the volume, because they pretty much do a thing that Prime was doing while on Cybertron and trying to keep some stuff under wraps, but didn't do so well. But they are so far. Let's see, G.I. Joe #1. Just to go by my notes, the Joe's a Public Enemy #1 in a Cobra controlled. I don't know if it's just the U.S., but they're centering this in the U.S., so that's why I'm going with that. But it sounded like they took over the world.
Mm-hmm.
But something happens to a Major Joe in the beginning, which I can't say that I expected, but I didn't necessarily expect to happen. But the premise of this book seems like the Joes had to go underground, but they were still kind of out there fighting for the government up until the end of the at the behest of the government until the end of this book. But so they're basically driven underground, so it's almost like G.I. Joe Renegades, which the less spoken about that show, the better. They are recruiting. They have been recruiting, civilians to help them in their cause. Basically get more bodies on the to fight Cobra. So this seems like basically part of the subplot of the upcoming Watch Dogs Legion video game is what it seems like, because they do get another new recruit, but they also talk about it's like, well, he's a civilian and it's another, you get trained as well. So they just basically, staying underground and recruiting civilians for the cause and fighting a good fight up until the end of this issue, where basically Hulk comes in and it's like, we gave up, we surrendered. So where this is going to go from there, who knows? It's almost something from the headline. Anyway, last book, Teen Titans #34. Somebody stole Jen's ring, and everybody's a suspect. We do find out who the person is at the end of this issue, but during the course of it, Robin is going around trying to find out who stole it. And like I said, he was just as much as a suspect, apparently, as much as anybody else on the team. And they're still doing that Pleasant Hill thing, but that's kind of gets shuffled to the side in lieu of this for this issue. Crush seems to be having a moment where she's seemingly more like her dad than initially was. Her dad, of course, being Lobo. And yeah, that's going to come up at some point in time. But like I said, we got this thing where the person that stole Jen's ring has an agenda. And that agenda might be getting rid of the rest of the team. But we shall see how that works out. And that is it for me.
All right. So I guess it's time for Clicks of the Week.
Mm-hmm. And we already have 2 from the folks that are not here. Let's see. PC_Dirt says Powers of Spider-Man 1 was his click.
Yep.
And to probably, no surprise to anybody that's been paying attention the last few weeks.
Hold on. I was about to say, hold on. What's the answer? Family Feud style. What is Tim Dog 98's click of the week? Is it House of X? Survey says.
It would have been funny if you had messed up and hit the wrong button on that one. But yes, it definitely was House of X #5. And to be fair, look, it was a great issue this week. So I'm not even gonna front on that pick.
It's definitely a potential click of the week for me. That's
as I said, it was an impressive piece of fiction.
There's a lot to it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. Obviously, Hickman makes very good use of the pages that have the data pages that really give you a lot of the explanation that they just don't have ways of expressing in or more efficient ways of expressing it in regular comic book format. So all the questions you might have going in, including who doesn't need mutant medicine.
Right.
I'm going to buck that trend though and name Jane Foster Valkyrie #3 or Valkyrie Jane Foster #3 as my click of the week. I
Right.
just had a ton of fun reading this book. It reads so well. It needs more readers. I don't know what its current sales numbers are, but it definitely should be read by more people. So
Yeah.
shout out to Jason Aaron and Al Ewing for telling a great story so far.
Yeah, and not to get on this because we've talked about this a bunch of times. Like sometimes it feels like sales is not the determining factor as to why books pass or fail. Because let's face it, there are books that have done better than other books they bite the bullet that are still going in cases. But that's again a whole nother situation. We don't really
Right. I was about to say there's very different situations for lots of them, like Squirrel Girl or even Moon Girl, because they have other markets that they appeal to and other formats they actually appeal to. So
Sure. Well, yeah, but I'm talking about outside of that.
oh
stuff.
no, I understand that.
Right.
There's several reasons why. So
Right. But yeah, that's definitely also a factor. For myself, I almost weirdly want to go with Friendly Neighborhood, but I'm going to actually go with House of X.
whoa, nice. It was that good an issue this week.
Yeah, it really
definitely was.
Like there's no hype. There was no hype about it. If you've been keeping up with what's been going on with House of X, House of 10, then you can see the ramifications of this, and it's like, all right, sure, I'm with it.
That works.
And now before we go into the news, we're getting to the first ad read of the night.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with a Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
It would help if I hit mute there. Before we get into the news, I wanted to address the question that came out in chat.
That chat. Oh, that chat.
Right.
What is he talking about? Forgive me for not being so familiar with the Lightstream stuff yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes. But anyway, this seems like a question from somebody. I feel like we know this person. But this is someone under the assumed name of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Wait, what do you mean from Bikini Bottom?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes. They asked the question, have comic books and movies become too preachy? And they also go so far as to say campy Silver Age comics have always been their favorite, not too dark or serious. And you know what? That's good for you. That's great. I mean, comics. So here's the thing about comics, real because we don't have time to go too far into this. I'm sure we've done this in the past, but the comics can serve a lot of markets. It doesn't have to be just one thing. It doesn't have to have one tone. So I'm going to sit here and say that no, they haven't become too preachy. Like, sure, there are some with some messages to them. That's not every book, and the movies specifically. No, they're just straight up answer. No, they have not become too preachy. Like, sure, like I said, some have a message. It seems probably to some more that it's quote unquote preachy or have a lot of messages to them than there actually is. but that is not all of comics or comic book movies for that matter.
I mean, I wouldn't expand it to the movies, but I definitely think that
But they
there are so many comics out there that there's something out there for you. You have to find it. Unfortunately, both comic book companies and comic book stores don't do a very good job of showing you what it is that will appeal to your taste. You're looking for something campy and, in my opinion, corny, then there's something out there for you.
Right. I feel like they will appeal to this person's taste more than anyone who actually is trying to find something that's a little different than, or not the normal quote unquote classic comics. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that that's the case, but they I feel like they would go for the more, some of them would more go for the more campy Silver Age, more quote unquote classic cartoon. That's why Batman gets pushed so doggone much. Not saying that's campy or anything, but
have fun with Batman 66 books. That's what I have to say.
Well, there is also that too.
If
But
that's what if that's what you're looking for, it's out there. It's out there. You just have to find it.
Yeah, but like I said,
it may not be where you thought it was, but it's out there. So I think that's it's and I understand the buttons that may be the targets of this particular comment, but I think that there are comics out there for this purpose.
There's something out there for everybody. If some of the ones that you are alluding to are not you're liking,
House of X is not for you.
Right. Assuming that's assuming that's one of the ones you're talking about. I'm not sure if that's the case, but
it definitely has. There's definitely some underlying messages in the X-Men, from Jump. So,
right.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure
in America for that matter.
Right. So I'm not sure how you're going to avoid it with those books, but there's definitely other books that have
or Superman,
a certain tone that you might be looking for. So
right. So.
They are out there. We may not talk about them because they're not the main canon.
Well, we talk about stuff we like, so
we also tend to focus on the main canon books. So
because that's a lot of stuff we like. We don't always stay there, but that's what we focus on.
Right. When it comes to the big two. When it comes to some of the other ones, we kind of pick and choose the stuff that floats our respective boats. So,
just in general, anyway.
Right. But we're back to the news.
So, we start off with the cinematic news as we tend to do about this time. The Suicide Squad. Wait, I'm not sure if that's actually okay. Yeah, I did the news. I should know this. James Gunn reveals full cast with a warning. So yeah, James Gunn took to Twitter, or Instagram, and with a poster picture of what seems to be the full cast of the upcoming Suicide Squad movie. There are some names here, some returning, some new. As I said on Twitter, I don't hold out hope that for any of the people of color lasting through the movie, with the exception of maybe possibly Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, but even that could be on the table. We don't know.
It's not a horror movie.
It's not, but there's no one said it is, but
no, but I'm just but Roddykat understands what I'm getting at.
Right.
It's not a horror movie. Will Smith made it to the end of Suicide Squad, but at the same time, I don't know if there is someone on that level of fame playing a character. I mean, Idris Elba is playing, I'm presuming, a different character, not Bloodshot. Not Bloodshot.
Right, he's not
Deadshot.
Deadshot, right.
So, we shall see what comes of this. So,
but at the same time, it's Suicide Squad, and they have a record.
Somebody's got to die, right? Exactly.
Die, but because of that last movie, like I said, and who died in that last movie. That's why I said what I said.
Right. Well, there's only so many characters that have come out, but we have some returning characters who survived. Maybe it's their turn to go. So we shall see. Birds of Prey cast has been revealed in vibrant new DC comic art. So this is that Harley Quinn Birds of Prey entitled um
It's
film,
the birds from Prey.
and
Yeah.
it's Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, Juicy Smolier's. I'm just
Wait, what? What you tripping on?
it's I guess you haven't seen Chappelle's latest
No, I haven't.
right. It's not that person. It's Jumi Smollett Bell's Black Canary and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Huntress all have their own covers, and they give us our best look at them yet. So
Right, and if you're watching the video, you have seen me scroll through all three of the pictures. They look good. That's cool. Jenny Smollett is a Black Canary. That's an interesting choice. So, and the art was done by Tula Lotte. So, cool beans. Oops.
next up,
Yep. Rihanna responds to poisonous. Ooh, man, that almost came out wrong. Rihanna's response to Poison Ivy casting speculation. So, she was talking to Entertainment Tonight about a video that sparked speculation into her possibly taking on the role of Poison Ivy, and she basically said, "Hey, she would love to because she digs Poison Ivy's aesthetic."
why not?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Why not? Have you seen Battleship? Just Twitter first. Acting stop.
Oh no!
All joking aside, though. Yeah,
Oh no!
but yeah, she says that she has dyed her hair because of Uma Thurman in the original, which not the original, but you get where she's going with that. She also said that, you know what, they didn't call me, but if they did, I would love to go in and try out because Poison Ivy is one of my obsessions in life. She said, I did it for Halloween one year. I mean, come on. I think I remember seeing that. It was pretty good looking. That's all I'm saying. Next up.
All right, next up, Michael Keaton's Batsuit, Jack Nicholson's Joker costume are among Batman props up for auction. So during this 80th anniversary, there's going to be a very special auction taking place in London, September 30th through October 1st, featuring iconic props and costumes from classic Batman films. So get your wallets ready.
Yeah, good. That's kind of pricey. Anything you would want out of here, given the list?
I haven't looked at it, so
so as you would suspect, it's the various Batman costumes, or at least a couple in particular. There's Robin costume. There's Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman costume. Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. Jack Nicholson's Joker costume, which I'm like, hey, can't buy that off the rack.
Right.
You probably could. I don't know, in certain places. And, it goes on from there. So, personally, I was like, yeah, sure. Get either Keaton suit or that Joker suit. It'll be all right. But, anyway. CW's Black Lightning preps for Crisis on Infinite Earths and possibility of The Outsiders. So, yeah, we already know that Black Lightning is going to be a part of the next Arrowverse crossover coming soon. And apparently, to go along with Young Justice, they are also doing potentially going to do The Outsiders. Probably not going to end up how Young Justice did, but Next up.
Okay, so it has been revealed that in the final season of Arrow, Oliver's sister, played by former series regular Willa Holland, will indeed be seen again. And will be not just a guest star, but recur during the CW series 10-episode farewell run.
So, cool. Yes, hey, you brought it in, you're taking it back out. Nice. Speaking of Young Justice Outsider coming to home video this fall. So yeah, no surprise, it's coming to DVD and Blu-ray fairly soon, actually. So it'll be out on digital September 24th, which is actually a few days from now. And the DVD on November 26th. Wait, that's weird.
What's that?
Usually it's 2 weeks from, but then again, that's for usually bigger stuff. So never mind. But see, the Blu-ray will arrive on November 26th. Also, so and it says the DVD order due date is October 22nd. Usually, like I said, for movies, there's usually a 2 week between the digital and the physical release. But things are not the same for the animated stuff. Next.
Alrighty. There is a new Watchmen trailer out, and all eyes are on a masked Regina King. So the Watchmen series is set to begin airing on HBO October 20th, and the trailer shows us a lot of things. I haven't actually watched this trailer, so it'll be interesting to take a look at it. What we know right now is that it's a remix rather than a sequel, according to Damon Lindelof, and I'm interested to see where this goes. So there's that.
Sure. Next up, Jay and Silent Bob clip gives best look at yet at So what?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, might have been an echo. Jay and Silent Bob clip gives best look at yet at Melissa Benoist's Chronic. So I believe this was at the Saturn Awards, which is when I saw it. And yeah, it was where Jason Mewes came out to present this clip, and it was it was interesting to say the least. If you know anything about the Jay and Silent Bob movies and that universe, you pretty much know how it's going to go. Specifically from Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. Next. Uh-oh. Hello? Okay. We may be having some audio difficulties. So, I think we might have lost Agent 70 because I cannot hear him anymore. While we try to get him back, because he has frozen. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, actually. We're going to continue with the news. So, DuckTales Season 2, all the callbacks in Season 2 finale explained. I'm not going to go into it because I haven't seen it myself, but apparently there's a bunch of references that happen to pop up during the course of that show, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything that was about it. Bear with me a moment, folks, while I. Might have get knocked out. That's weird. So yeah, we'll keep going from there. Speaking of the DuckTales from the Disney Plus side of things, Gargoyles, Darkwing Duck, Rescue Rangers, and more are coming to Disney Plus streaming service. We actually got a full list of potential anyway, sorry. We got a full list of day one content reportedly revealed from Disney Plus, and it's some interesting stuff. So we already know the Marvel Studios stuff. A lot of the Avengers, the MCU movies. I know we may be getting. Okay, well, anyway, we'll sort that out when it happens. A lot of let's see. So yeah, the Avengers movies, a lot of that stuff. Marvel animated stuff. So we got Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes. That's the '94 version. No mention of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes in this list, mind you. Again, this is a report. Guardians of the Galaxy from 2015, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man from '94, Iron Man Armored Adventures, Silver Surfer. So all of that stuff so basically all of that '90s stuff. Spider-Man and Spider-Man and Amazing Friends, which I am very excited about that. Spider-Man Unlimited, Spider-Woman from 1979. Hadn't seen that in a minute. That was a good show. Ultimate Spider-Man, X-Men, and X-Men Evolution. So all of your favorites. So I know a lot of X-Men animated series fans are happy for that stuff. Like I said, Spider-Man is Amazing Friends, and I'm happy to see that one. But again, like I said, weird that Avengers Earth's Mightiest Hero was not in this initial list. That could be because this is just a report, and it's probably there. I think there is. They said that you could look at what's on the site, what's going to be there, but I'm not sure, and I haven't tried. There's also going to be Star Wars films, so all 6 of the main films: Clone Wars, Rogue One, and Solo Story. And also, of course, Star Wars TV. So there's going to be those Force of Destiny shorts, Rebels, Clone Wars, and Resistance are all going to be there, including the Rebels shorts. So cool. Then, of course, there's a bunch of Pixar stuff and Disney animated classics. You know them, you love her, and love them. And, of course, like stuff like Dr. Dolittle and blah, 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 blah. We don't have to go on that one. So, yeah, a lot of Marvel stuff. The Marvel animated stuff was, like I said, I'm kind of interested in, and I know there are people who really want Gargoyles, and the Disney, the Disney afternoon stuff. Along with we know for sure that the DuckTales is going to be there with the new version also. So we shall see. Favreau volunteers for a new Star Wars holiday special. So, and I say to this, oh no. Oof. So yeah, for those of a certain vintage, of the Star Wars holiday special from 1979. It has a special type of infamy attached to it. It's out there. I believe it should be still out there on YouTube, so you can go check it out for yourself. Some would say it doesn't hold up well. I don't know if Favreau was serious about this. I think he probably was. So yeah, and apparently he was talking to Entertainment Tonight when he said this after around the time of the Saturn Awards. And so yeah, sounds like something he may seriously want to do. Spider-Man's alter ego, the Night Monkey. Oh.
Should be back up and running.
Yep, we hear you.
All righty. Sorry about that, folks. Had some technical difficulties on our side. On my side, maybe everything just decided to go. My window with our good friends at Lightstream decided to go to hell. So,
oh wait, let me do this. There we go. So now it's updated, so I think they should be able to hear you at the very least.
oh, okay. So sorry about that, folks. I'm back. Sorry for the mild interruption.
That's fine. I didn't get that much farther. I got past like the Disney Plus stuff, and I am on the Spider-Man's Alter Ego
Okay.
one. If you want to go ahead and take that one.
Spider-Man's Alter Ego, the Night Monkey, gets a trailer that he doesn't quite damn well deserve.
Oh, come on.
It's Sony trolling Marvel, which is in poor form.
Yeah, nevertheless.
Poor form.
Yeah, nevertheless. I find it amusing, even from the trolliness of it.
You know, all I have to say is
Yep.
yeah, like anybody who's listened to New York radio recognizes the Funk Master Flex Bomb.
Yes.
So
yeah. Anyway, we're moving right along. To watch Tom Holland still does watch as Tom Holland still does his own amazing stunts on Spider-Man Far From Home. So this sounds like this is going to be a featurette on the Blu-ray DVD.
right, the digital version of the movie is out for purchase now. So was it another week and a half?
Mm-hmm.
So soon.
Yeah.
And there's a short film that should have been included in the movie that has been that was a segment cut from the movie and should have been released with the movie. It's called Peter's To-Do List, and I guess it's going to be part of the digital package as well.
Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, and they go into what that short film was about, but we won't. So, speaking of Spider-Man, the Spider-Man character Marvel and Sony both can use, and that would be one Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman.
Interesting.
Apparently. Yeah. Will they ever do it? Who knows? But yeah, the article just outlining, the blah blah blahs and the yakety schmackety about the Sony and Marvel's use of this character.
Interesting.
Yep. Next up, before we go to this next one, actually, let's go to this next one. Then I'll circle back around to something I wanted to
All
add.
right. So the Russo brothers actually came out and said that they think the MCU Sony split on Spider-Man is a tragic mistake for Sony.
Agreed.
Shout out to the Russo brothers.
Yeah. I mean, it's we've lamented this long and hard since this has happened, and some people still are that I know of. So, yeah, it's a thing. Before we go to the next one, though, really quick, did you saw that article about what's the stuff that's coming to Disney Plus, possibly coming to Disney Plus day one?
Is it the article that describes what a user in like a beta user in like a European country saw, where it's being tested right now?
Quite possibly, I'm not sure.
I did see a lot of it.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's a report, so it's not necessarily that it's a definite list.
Right, I think that's what it is. Like, there's a beta test out in a European country, and one of the users described what was available day one. But for the Mandalorian, obviously, because that's still being reserved for the release date.
Well, yeah. The only other thing I would say about that is now this not necessarily saying one way or the other, but being as it's a beta test in Europe, they may be possibly getting different stuff. I doubt it. I mean, sometimes they will do that kind of stuff for certain services, but I'm not. Either way, we don't know until day one what's the actual factuals. But if this is in the indication, that's a pretty good list,
right?
And like I said earlier,
extensive. That's what it is. It's an extensive list.
Yeah. I didn't see. I said this earlier, and I'm saying it again. I didn't see Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes on that list, and I'm slightly bummed about that. Because they had mostly pretty much everything else.
Right.
Well, except for the 66 stuff. But again, so we don't know.
They had Amazing Friends.
They did. I was like, and I did say, I was like, I'm quite happy about that. And they also had X-Men. So
yep.
And
yeah, all the 90s stuff. They had all the 90s stuff.
Well, yeah, that's right. I was about to say, yeah, definitely. I did say that they had all that with, especially the Iron Man. They don't have ForceWorks though. They didn't have ForceWorks either.
I wasn't looking for that. I did see Fantastic Four. I did see Silver Surfer.
I think that might also become along with Avengers. Oh no, because that was along with like the Fantastic Four and that Silver Surfer one. So that's a kind of a weird one.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was around the same. But yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on that because I know
sure.
Like some of the other Disney stuff and Pixar stuff and all that Star Wars stuff that they're gonna have on there. It's definitely gonna be a good bit. Anywho, the Saturn Awards were this past last week as of this recording, last Friday. 45th annual Saturn Awards, which is basically I believe the awards for sci-fi and for TV and movies. Marvel's Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau, speaking of Favreau, honored at the 45th Saturn Awards. Amongst with other things, so they're not the only ones. I think there's a list of well, matter of fact, I'm gonna wrap up these next couple all together.
Okay.
So Feige won the first annual Stan Lee World Builder Award, which go figure. Okay. Jon Favreau won for Iron Man. What do you won? I know you won for something else. Jeff Loeb also won the Dan Curtis Legacy Award, which that was when I found out Jeff Loeb actually wrote for Commando. I did not know that.
Wow. Yeah.
The movie Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jeff Loeb helped write that. I didn't interesting.
Shout out to Ray Don Chong.
Exactly. Avengers Endgame won. I think Tom Holland might have won for something. Yeah, best performance by a younger actor for Tom Holland. Best supporting actors for Zendaya. And so on and so on that front. Also, there was an Iron Man stinger that had a version where Nick Fury references Spider-Man and the X-Men. This also was the deleted scene was also shown at the Saturn Awards. I think it was Feige that presented the clip. Yep, and it says that the clip will be included on a box set that includes the entire Infinity Saga coming later this year. So, and I think,
that's what that means. All of that together, like seriously, a box set.
Pretty much, yeah, and that was always that one. That was the one that for the 10th anniversary or whatever was already an extensive box. So interesting. But to round out the Saturn Awards talk, 2019 Saturn Awards winners, Avengers Endgame, like I just said, dominates with 6 total awards. And of course, along with that, so they got like Best Comic Motion Picture and a few others. I'm not going to read out this whole list. Ready Player One for some strange reason, won something. Mission Impossible Fallout won. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won. I believe it might have been a couple of times. Robert Downey Jr. won for Endgame. Infinity War won for Best Supporting Actor with Josh Brolin. And I told you about the Zendaya and Tom Holland one, and a bunch of other awards. So that was an interesting one to watch because the budget was not quite there, but they tried. They really tried.
The budget for
the award show.
Okay, I haven't. So you actually sat and watched it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. A good bit of it. Yeah,
was it on?
They were streaming it. It was being streamed.
Okay, cool.
Right. I don't know if it was on an actual channel. Also, it might have been, and they were also streaming it, but I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure that stream is probably still out there somewhere.
Yeah. So so I'll see if I can catch up on that. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So next up.
All righty. So in a very strange, yeah, exactly, in a very strange set of circumstances, I get this story. I actually read this when I saw it in our notes. Shout out to a little bit of preparation before the show.
Right.
I actually read this story, and apparently, a film studio in Indonesia, um, Bumilangit, is openly out to create a Bumilangit cinematic universe, drawing on an apparent library of more than 1,000 comic book characters heretofore unknown to us, um, to create an interconnected superhero world. The first installment in the intended series, Gundala, lays out the company's intentions. So it's a crowd-pleasing action film full of martial arts battles and some special effects, and it's packed with bizarre storylines that run right up to the edge of comedy. So I saw the trailer, and there's lots of martial arts stuff in it. The special effects are definitely more along the lines of Black Lightning level, because budgets, people have to stick to budgets.
Sure.
And we're not talking the battle of Avengers compound level of special effects here, people. So it's definitely a cool thing to see someone try to take up the mantle of building a superhero universe with some continuity involved. So good on them.
It's ambitious for certain.
Good on them. And Asia is a fertile ground for comic book fans. It's there's obviously been a long tradition of comic book fans in Asia. So good on them for creating their own set of superhero characters and hopefully getting them into movies.
Yep. Next up, Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson confirmed their return in Ghostbusters 2020, which I somehow thought that already happened, but it's confirmed now. So yeah, they're going to be in it.
Okay. Alrighty, next up, Mortal Kombat! The movie is being officially rebooted, and that has begun filming. So guess what? If you thought that you missed it, someone thought the same thing and is going to scratch that particular itch.
Or claw it. We don't know. Anyway,
pretty much.
In awesome news, not necessarily comic book related, but I'm rolling with it anyway. The Boondocks is coming back on HBO's new streaming service.
It's comic related. They were a comic strip first.
I mean, sure, yes, you're right. But I'm just saying it's not a. It doesn't. Well, actually, this still does, because they did put out. Regardless, I put it in here regardless.
I was about to say you didn't need the caveat. So
nope, because I put it in here anyway. So yeah, there looks like that HBO Max service is getting not only a new. Well, it looks like I thought I saw something that said 2 seasons. Yeah, Aaron Magruder will return for 2 new seasons, and they're also getting all the first 4 seasons on the service to go with these 2. So cool. If you haven't checked out this Boondocks is not for everybody. Never mind. What I was about to say.
All right, so that's the only spillover story, right?
That is it.
All right, so we're gonna transition over to comic book news. I'm gonna use a new transition sound that I know Roddykat had, and I finally implemented into my soundboard.
Oh joy! Perfect.
And poor Roddykat was like, he was all like quaking in his boots. Like, what did he put in?
Hey, I wasn't sure where you were going with that, so that's perfect. I can cut your mic. You just know, just know that. Anyhow.
No!
Anyway, comic book news. A Green Lantern returns with the powers of DC's most sinister villain. So I did not know this happened because I don't read Justice League Odyssey, and I don't think that many people do. So apparently they killed off Jessica Cruz, who was the Green Lantern that was with him, but she has, spoiler alert, been reborn with the powers of Darkseid.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. That's one of those books I was like, you know what? I read the first issue, first couple of issues. I'm like, all right, I may pick this back up at some point, and I never did. And it's only been 13 issues. So, because I think that issue came out last week. So yeah, that's the thing that happened. Whether it sticks or not, and why they killed her in the first place, we don't know. But just saying, DC loves killing women. Next up.
So Frank Miller is returning to The Dark Knight Returns for The Golden Child. I want the knife.
And when I saw this, I did the exact same thing on Twitter. So we're there.
Frank Miller will return to his Dark Knight Returns continuity for The Golden Child, a 48-page one-shot written by Miller with art from Raphael Grandpa. And no offense, but that's how I read that. And colorist Jordi Belair for DC's Black Label. According to Entertainment Weekly, the story is set 3 years after The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race, and is going to focus on the Jonathan Kent, son of Superman and Wonder Woman, in that alternate storyline.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I don't know what really else to say about that. Deathstroke ends with December's number 50. So this would be the time to let people know that, hey, guess what? December 2019 solicitations are out. And some of the news is coming from that. DC was pretty much out in front. Well, DC pretty much put theirs out, and I think Marvel and then everybody else did theirs within the last day of this recording. As of this recording, I should say. So yeah, Deathstroke's ending. Hopefully Christopher Priest will end up getting another book.
My understanding is that he had one already scheduled, but I'd have to look at the solicitations again.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't look at the solicitations, but that's probably true. And I know there were people once speculating, basically we're like, hey, what would you want him to write? Types, questions. So who knows? Next up,
Supergirl welcomes a new creative team this December. So writer Jody Hauser and artist Rachel Stott are taking over DC Supergirl, ongoing with December's issue number 37.
Nice. All female creative team. Outside cover. Wonder Woman 83 shifted to December as prep begins for a 750th issue. Okay. So apparently this came about because as people tend to do, we're scouring the December solicits, didn't see Wonder Woman on there, and may or may not have freaked out. But apparently, DC moved the book around. So and it says they don't have planned on what DC hasn't announced what they have planned for January's Wonder Woman issue 84, which is also the 750th issue. So that's probably a reason. I would hate to believe that, oh, wait, she's 750 book issues in. Well, we got to do something for it at the last minute. So,
okay.
But it basically shifts because there's also a new writer coming in. So that's probably more the deal than anything else. Because as we know, G. Willow Wilson has left the book, or is leaving the book. So, and Steve Orlando was taking it over. So there you go. Next up.
All right. So spoiler alert. DC's Year of the Villain offers major Batman foe a wild hunt of his own. So thanks to Lex Luthor being transformed into this apex predator form in the Justice League book, he's given power upgrades out, and Ra's al Ghul's been made an offer, and most notably Black Mask. So they have powers, and they're going to wage war on the Dark Knight.
Yes, but this particular article is talking more about Mr. Freeze.
Ah,
And apparently he was given something at the end of the last issue of Detective Comics last week, I believe. And it says here, the conclusions of Detective Comics 10 and 11 sheds more light as we see Freeze with his own legion, although we don't know where they originated or what weapons they brought. So Mr. Freeze got his own crew together, and they apparently did some stuff with his backstory. They retconned this thing again. Well, actually, they had already restored it, so now they're just adding to it or something. Next up, Apex Lex recruits Lexes across the multiverse in Lex Luthor, You're the Villain #1. We could have foregone this. If anybody had read it, none of us read it.
oh, it's this week. Right.
Mm-hmm. Wait, was this? I thought it was last week.
The Lex book?
Wait,
You're the Villain #1. It was this week.
that was this week. Okay, yeah. I'm confusing another.
I skimmed it very quickly, but there was a lot to it, so I didn't have a chance to really read it.
Sure. So apparently there's going to be a council of Alexis. I mean, that's what it sounds like, or something to rather like that. Because what the world needs now is more Lex Luthors. Next,
Okay. DC is hosting a Villain of the Year fan award, and okay. This fall, DC is inviting fans to vote on their favorite villain, with the winner to be revealed in a comic book coming this December. So,
right, and that said book is going to be quote unquote hosted by Harley Quinn, which in which they announced the winners of whatever categories they got going on.
okay.
That is within the realm of the villain, the Year of the Villain stuff. So interesting. Don't you start. You did it anyway. Doggone it. Get 6 free Batman games, including Arkham Collection, from the Epic Store. So if you are a person that plays video games on the PC, there's a good, and you have been doing so for a good minute, it's a chances are you probably have some of this stuff already. But if you don't, you can get the Lego Batman trilogy 1, and also the the Batman Arkham Knight games for free. Maybe you didn't hear me the first time. Free. From now until September 26th, which at the time of this writing is another couple of weeks, which is assuming next week, actually, a week from today. So yeah, even if you don't have a PC that's capable of running these, go sign up for the Epic Store and go get them anyway until you do get one. These are 6 free games, and most of them are good. I'm gonna say all of them are good, but I haven't played Arkham City yet, so who knows? And the Lego ones, it is what it is on that ones. But they're out there, folks. Go get them. Next up, Moon Knight, of all people, is going to be teaming up with Conan the Barbarian in a book called Conan Serpent Wars. So it's written by Jim Zub with art by Scott Eaton and Steven Segovia. The new 4-part event series finds Conan united with fellow Robert E. Howard creations Dark Agnes, Solomon Kane, as well as Mark Spector of Moon Knight, who is not a Robert E. Howard creation. No, he is not. They had to put somebody in there that to bridge the universes or something. Actually, they didn't really, but yeah, I don't know. That was a weird one. I don't, and I'm kind of, this is my speculation here, because I'm wondering if some of this is coming off of that Moon Knight annual, because didn't he also do a time journey there? You didn't read it, neither did I. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that's the thing that's coming. Go for it. Next. Gotcha. It's you. Oh. James Abrams' Marvel debut drastically changes the Spider-Man mythos. So this is talking about that Spider-Man #1 that J.J. Abrams' son did. We talked about it earlier. We didn't really get into all of what it changed, and all like a good mess. But yeah, there you go. That's the thing that happened. Next.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it changes anything.
I mean, probably won't, but
right. Next up, Tony Stark, Iron Man is ending in December. So I've been reading this book, and apparently, issue number 18, originally set to hit shelves on November 20th, is going to be postponed until December and serve as the series conclusion. It actually may serve to be a natural conclusion for the series, given the events of the most recent issue and this Ultron related story. So, there's also the convenient fact, very convenient, that a famous Iron Man story is entitled Iron Man 2020. And of course, that is next year. So it seems that an Iron Man 2020 book is soon to be upon us.
Perhaps. I was taking it as Tony and Iron Man has served its usefulness in the MCU, so they don't need a book from him anymore.
No, I figured it's the 2020 thing. And I think most people did. You figured they're going to do something to mark the coming of 2020 in the Iron Man book.
Honestly, I didn't see that. So I did not pick up on that. Contagion number 2 calls for Marvel's street level heroes. Are Luke Cage and Iron Fist the men who can stop Marvel's newest menace? Who knows? So Contagion is an upcoming miniseries written by Ed Brisson and a bunch of artists. I think we talked about that previously. Showing some preview art here in this story from the issue 2, which is going to come out on October 9th. Yeah, don't know that much about what this miniseries outside of what's already been said by us.
Mm-hmm.
As far as we know, has nothing to do with Typhoid Mary, or maybe it does. Who knows? Next.
All right, next up, Nova, Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer, and more are going to spin out of the latest incarnation of the Annihilation story, entitled Annihilation Scourge. It's an event that's going to be out this December.
Yes, almost 20 years too late. I'm just kidding. So yeah, I'm assuming this has. I'm assuming this is probably, and this is again assumption. This is probably going to roll into that incoming thing, or maybe not. I don't know.
No, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe
it might be. It might be independent. At least from what I saw of the teaser that I saw about incoming.
Right.
It may not be related to this.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they had some stuff. They had some stuff to clean up in Annihilation. Who knows? I don't know. Like I said, that was just speculation on my part, and there's no telling. Although I feel, I don't know.
All right, you may be right. There's no way of knowing at this point.
Right. Next up, DragonCon 2019 brought out Marvel's best and brightest cosplayers. So yeah, there's an article on Marvel.com about the number of cosplayers that showed up in force and did the group picture at DragonCon, as they tend to do every year.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool. Next.
Disney's new bedtime hotline for kids lets Yoda creep you the hell out before sleeping. Okay. So there's a bedtime hotline, and it's a way for parents to let kids get a special goodnight message from a classic Disney icon, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, or Goofy. But for the next 2 weeks, you're going to get some different characters. So yeah, good luck with that.
Oh, come on. You wanna check it out and see what they're saying. So we grew up at a time where numbers like that were kind of not necessarily prevalent, but there was
there was more of a market for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's amusing that they did this. Next up, Gary Larson's The Far Side. Again, not to be confused with the rap group. Returning for a new online era. So yeah, it says Gary Larson's The Far Side is coming back, though not exactly how is clear at the time. The Far Side website was updated with the following text: uncommon, unreal, and soon to be unfrozen. Yeah, a new era of the Far Side is coming. So yeah, there you go. Additional information was not provided. Fans of the Far Side rejoice.
Gotcha.
Exactly. All one of you. Next.
Hey, it's been out of our consciousness for a long time, so
Yeah, it's been a minute.
it'll be interesting to see it come back. But it's not something that I don't believe people were clamoring for. But we'll see. We'll see how what kind of reception it gets.
Yep.
All right. Next up, Archie Horror's literal revamp of Veronica Lodge, Vampironica, returns for another bite of her own comic adventures. So it's a miniseries. Trying to read up on this, trying to figure out what's going on. Whatever. Good luck with that.
Yeah, basically it's a sequel to the first one, I believe, which I apparently must have done some numbers. See, The Secret Life of Pets, The Fast and the Furry, gets a preview from Titan Comics. I think, is it out this week? I'm not sure, but hey, if you care about a Secret Life of Pets comic, guess what? There is one coming. Or if it is not already here. But if you are curious, hey, there's a preview page. There's some preview pages out there for you. If you're watching the video, I fastly scroll through a bunch of it.
Okay.
Next.
I guess it's last but not least. Transformers Primitive Optimus Prime, a San Diego Comic-Con 2017 exclusive, is actually back.
Yes.
For order. Is this on the Hasbro Pulse? Or
no. Well, I'm not sure. This is coming from Transformers Source.
Okay.
So sounds like they're doing the pre-ordering.
All right. I guess they got some in stock.
I guess so. This so fans may or may not remember that when Roddykat was lusting after this particular figure a couple of years ago, couldn't get it because they were sold out. Because we had one Matt Wang tried to brave the lines to get that, and they were gone.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the sucktastic part of these convention exclusives.
Yep, but apparently, and the price, believe me, because I had checked, had gone up for one or two that were still floating around, and AKA the ones that were being sold for exorbitant prices on eBay and other places. Sure. But apparently, yeah, they must have gotten a new shipment, or these are those. I don't know. I doubt that, but nevertheless, and I feel like this price was bigger than it was more than the original one. I felt like the original one was like $70-$80, and I might be wrong about that. This is a bit pricey.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been thinking about it, but
it's one of those things, right? It's just one of those things when you see it come back, and it's not priced completely, in the exorbitant, gouger scalper level. So,
yeah, like I want to say this is probably a good $20-$30 off the original price, or more than the original price. But like I said, I can't remember. And at this point, those prices are probably not even out there anymore. So yeah, this is the thing. If you are so interested, go for it. Go to TF Source and look through their thing, and you'll find it. It's the Transformers Primitive Optimus Prime SDCC 2017 exclusive. If somebody wants to buy it for me, no, I'm gonna do that. Not doing that. Anyway, that is it, folks. Unless we do talk about some variant stuff, which there is some variant stuff out there, but we don't. That's fine. They'll be in the show notes if you care to check them out. One more ad to read, please, sir.
Sure. And there's no box to open this week. Our last ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through cspn.us. Do it today.
And as we come to the end of another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles, whoops, that's weird. Your picture is all ghosty. I don't know why I'm sitting here trying to fix it when
we're at the tail end.
We're at the tail end, and I'm actually making matters worse. So I'm going to leave that and say that thank you each and every one of you for coming out.
Shout out to Adamant 97.
Absolutely, indeed. Here we still have that one, even though it's a ghost form of you, your full shot. Anyway, while I try to fix that, I am going to say that I have been, there we go. I have been Roddykat. You can find me on Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsZito on Twitter, CBCaps on Instagram. Okay, late reaction there. Agent 70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com, and there's been Burler sites therein. And Tim DOGG98, the Osiris of this ish. Check him out on Twitter at that. Check him out at new. I keep wanting to do that. I don't know why. CB Cron on Twitter. The Click Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQNATION. I'm getting tired, folks. TheClickNation.com, and also Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. This here program you can find on Cold Slither Podcast Network, CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Called Good Googly Boogie. You can find.
Oh no! That almost was a Goonie Goo Goo.
Oh no. Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcast. You can find this also on Spotify and the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. And we will be back next week, folks.
No Bigfoot mobiles.
Okay.
That's more Goonie Goo stuff.
Yes. I'm like, wait, what? And then I caught it. So, yes. Next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, same great program, or whatever this is. I don't know, folks.
Fewer technical glitches.
We would hope, and thank you to my router for actually holding out, because I don't know what's going on with that thing lately. I don't know if that was the cause of this. I don't think so, because
no, it was more light stream.
Yeah, or something. So get your stuff together. Anyway, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.